And from Columbus, Ohio, I'm your host, Robb Dunewood.
And coming out of Philly, it's your girl, Tech Life Steph.
So you probably
know an AKA.
There is no AKA this week because your boy decided to go on vacation, and he actually he sent the facetious Discord message like, "I'm gonna miss y'all." He did a smiley face, wink, wink, wink. Like, you ain't missing nothing.
Right. AKA Brother Tech is not really disappointed not to be here. So stop fronting.
But you know what? We still are going to have a 3-person show this week because in the next 10 minutes or so, we got a guest coming up. We're bringing on Flo Nicholas, and she's going to talk with us about some DEI stuff and some stuff she's got going on. But before we get to that, I want to remind everyone that you can support the Tech Jawn by heading over to patreon.com/Tech Jawn. And that's going to give you the opportunity to watch us record the show live and hang out with us after the show in our after party and all kind of good stuff. We've got a Discord server that you can get over to. There's all kind of stuff you can do. But if you want to support the Tech Jawn, once again, head over to patreon.com/the Tech Jawn. So with that, Tech Life Steph, let's get into just a couple of tech stories before we get to our guest this week.
Yes.
I promise that we are not turning the show into This Week in Twitter. But we got to talk about this stuff. I think this just happened today. I don't know how much attention you paid to this, but Twitter's logo changed.
Well, I went to look at it when I saw that you posted it, and yeah, the little doggies in there still.
So yeah, they changed the logo over to the Dogecoin meme logo. The Shiba, I think it's a Shiba Inu dog or something like that, and it caused Dogecoin to spike over 30%. I think when I actually put this story in here, it was still up like 26.5%. And some folks are saying that Twitter actually got hacked. Some folks are saying that it's a delayed April Fool's joke.
Hacked. It is not a delayed April Fool's joke.
I'm just a reporter here telling y'all what the news is saying. Some folks are saying that this is Elon Musk thumbing his nose at the $258 billion racketeering lawsuit that he is currently engaged in. That's accusing him of running a pyramid scheme over on Dogecoin, because if you remember back in 2021 when that thing shot up, he was out tweeting about it and talking about it. And his thing was, well, he was just joking. He was just playing. But this is what this reminds me of, because I think this is the latter. I think that this is intentional. They meant to do this. This is him thumbing his nose. That is an opinion. That's me editorializing. I don't know this, but it just reminds me of, you always had those kids. They was just like the serial line steppers. They was just going to push it to the line every single time. And then they would lick their finger and touch the hot stove and see if they could hear the sizzle without getting burned. That's to me what it seems like Elon is doing here. It's like, y'all trying to sue me for a quarter trillion dollars.
Yeah.
Let me show you how much I don't care about this. And so I'm going to go change the logo of my, billion upon billions upon billions of dollar, project that I bought this summer. And I'm just going to play with you and just mess with you because that's just how I roll. That's what I think, but I don't know that.
But see, those kids were always the asshole. You know what I mean? Like, you always hated that kid. Like, that kid was always the asshole. Like, you just, and clearly nothing's changed, because it's just a dick move, and it's not even funny. It's not like, you're not even a good troll at this point. It's just, I'm just so over him and everything about him. And, it's just like, can we just go? I believe, he is deliberately trying to tank Twitter in some way. I don't know what the end game for that is going to be, but I do believe he's deliberately trying to tank Twitter. And it's just one more thing. Like, we need a Musk-free show next week. I'm like, I don't care what happens unless Twitter like completely goes off line. Like, we gotta stop giving this boy oxygen.
The reason we talked about this is because he moved money 30%. That is the significant part of this.
Yeah.
And like, last week we talked about this. You said how much you said that you literally could not care less about whether or not you were going to be blue or, or whatever color after last week.
I saw that when I got onto it, because I don't get on Twitter that much at all, and I definitely don't get on the web. But when I logged on the web, I saw the notification, hey, if you want to keep your blue check, you better da 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 da. I was just like,
so here's what it's looking like though, because you know that I was gifted. And I have to say that I have to preference that every show when I talk about I have Twitter Blue, the one that you pay for. It was gifted. I won it in a contest. I won a raffle. So I have it. But I think
that was the prize in a raffle? I mean, sidebar.
It was. Yeah, so I went to a little social media
about us as society where the prize in a raffle is a Twitter Blue subscription.
One of the people who was throwing this little social media gathering, they are really big on Twitter, and they also help other people. So their business is about helping people, build their profiles out. And they I say people, generally they're working with companies and doing like Twitter advertising and stuff. So it kind of fit
it makes sense.
The little conference that I was at, but it was a prize. But here's the thing that's interesting about this. I think that Twitter Blue might be it's not doing what Elon wants it to do, because we thought like folks like you are like push saying I could care less about that blue check mark. I think so many people were saying this and actually were not signing up for Twitter Blue that they changed it. So when you right click when you right click on the blue check mark, it used to actually say, whether or not you were a member of Twitter Blue or if you were a legacy verified person.
Right.
It no longer says that. It actually says you either are, a member of Blue or verified. So they're basically blurring the lines of who is. You can't tell who was actually verified because you are a journalist and been doing this for years.
For it. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And they just took the New York Times blue check away. Like yesterday or 2 days ago, like the New York Times no longer has a blue check mark for verification. And it just, it sucks because it's a very dangerous and slippery slope. And nothing about what Elon Musk is claiming he wants to do all of this for is materializing. I just got followed by 2 accounts today that I am certain are bots. So it doesn't look like anything is being done to, combat that which he claims he is here to champion against. And, removing verification from public sources and public resources like the New York Times is like you are inviting anarchy and I mean you're inviting anarchy honestly on your platform, because now it's just, well, how do we know if this is really true? How do we know if this is the real New York? How do we know? And you literally are inviting chaos to come and exist on your platform, and it's just like, what is your actual end game to all of this?
It's nuts, but they have Twitter Gold. So companies, they can go out and spend $1,000 a month. They want $1,000 a month.
Exactly. And the New York Times was like, we're not paying that. And I don't blame them.
Don't blame them. So let's get off of Twitter. Like I said, I promise we are not becoming This Week in Twitter. We're going to try to limit that conversation.
I'm telling you, you heard it here first. He is deliberately trying to tank this company.
Yeah.
I don't know if he just wants to do a fire sale and get it drive the stock price down that somebody just buys it and whatever. But he's deliberately trying to take this company because there's no way anybody with 2 brain cells would be running Twitter the way he's running Twitter right now and expect it to be profitable.
It's like, I know folks are saying, I was like, well, why would he do that? Because he did spend money on this, but it was OPP. It was other people's pockets that, this came from. Clearly some of it is his, but the sum that is his is we're in the range. He has so much money that it just doesn't make a difference. I do know the one reason why people who have as much money as Elon Musk has is because they really like having money. So I'm not saying that he's being frivolous with his money, but you could be right on that, because it is a lot of other folks' money that's tied up in this as well.
Yeah, he's trying to tank it.
So, Steph, I wanted to talk about this last one. I read your how you titled this, The Empire Strikes Back, ChatGPT. I'm like, what is she talking about? Then I go in here and I'm reading. I particularly focused on the article. I think it was in Insider, Business Insider. And I'm reading what this dude is saying. It's like, please, y'all.
Well, did you go read the later on Time?
Yeah, I read all three that you linked in here.
Yeah, the op-ed that the Eliezer Yudkowsky wrote was like crazy. But let's go ahead and set it up for the people.
Well, no, your story, I'll let you tell it. Just go ahead. We already started talking about it.
No, it's so basically I initially posted the open letter that, a bunch of people have signed, including Elon Musk and some other tech heavyweights have signed about AI and the fact that they need to put a 6-month moratorium on training another large language model. So basically they're saying don't do ChatGPT 5 just yet because this thing has gotten out of hand. No one has actually thought about what we should be doing. It's just become this tech arms race to see who can build the biggest and quickest and fastest and smartest AI, and nobody is thinking about the consequences. There are no protections in place for anybody, no government regulation. It is just the wild west of AI right now. So there is and let me give you the website because it's a organization called futureoflife.org. Anybody can actually sign this open letter. It has just gotten some high profile signers, including Elon Musk, including Steve Wozniak, including Andrew Yang, including I'm just scrolling right now looking at Craig Peters.
It's a bunch of folks.
It's a bunch of folks.
The gist is this stuff is fooling humans regularly.
Right.
So it's like folks is like getting worried because what do we always say? It's like, please do not build Skynet.
And nobody is stopping to say, will this evolve into Skynet? Could it evolve into Skynet? Might it evolve into Skynet? Should we build it if we know there's a possibility it could evolve into Skynet? Like, no one's asking any of those questions. And that's a problem. That is a real problem.
So the researcher warning, that was all doom and gloom. It is as bad as you can imagine. I'm paraphrasing and editorializing. It is as bad as you can imagine. We really need to stop and think about this. Clearly, they are worried about let's not build Skynet. The other ones are kind of like, let's just slow down and really think about this and figure out what moves need to be made. Unfortunately, I think that what's going to have to happen is that something massively horrible is going to have to happen first.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you think about it, just like, back in World War II, when basically, we were going after nuclear weapons, we were gung ho about doing that. And, and so was Russia. We wanted to develop these things. And because we knew that, okay, well, if we can blow up a lot of people, or a lot of stuff, take out a lot of stuff all at once. That is, that is, military wise, that makes us better than everybody else. And then they did it not once, but twice. And we see the fallout from that. It's like, oh, you literally are messing with Earth at this point. If you continue down this path, you're going to literally end life as we know it. So then, the superpower countries are like, okay, we got to figure this out. We got to make some rules. We got to do some things. I hate that Earth is like this, but I think until something just enormously catastrophic happens, I don't know that we're going to slow down on this.
No,
I think we're going to be full bore ahead. because you don't need to go to the government to get permission to build an AI. You just got to be really smart and know a lot of math and train it on a lot of stuff. So I'm looking at some of these articles like where you're starting to see actual governments are saying, well, hold up, I don't want to be in ChatGPT 4.5. I don't want to be in 5.0. We need to think about that from a government standpoint, but that doesn't prevent anybody from from a company standpoint or a personal standpoint of just figuring this stuff out and mathing it out. And well, wait a minute, here's like all this information is on the internet for free. Let's exclude this country, but let's get it from everyone else. So it's not going to stop anytime soon, in my opinion.
It's not. And I just want to read a couple things from the letter. So there's the open letter from futureoflife.org, which anybody can go and sign. And again, calling for this 6-month moratorium where they decide whether or not there should be some international standard around the development of AI and some sort of governing body that can kind of, maintain independent review and oversight over the development of AI. But then a man named Eliezer Yudkowsky, I hope I'm saying his name right. He is a decision theorist from the United States and leads research at the Machine Intelligence Research Institute. He's been working on aligning artificial general intelligence since 2001 and is widely regarded as a founder of the field. This is the guy that wrote the letter that basically said the world is coming to an end.
No, he's saying pausing AI is not enough. I'm reading this. Pausing AI developments isn't enough. We need to shut it all down.
Shut it all down. But the couple things that he put in here that I was like, boing, made my eyes go. He said, a sufficiently intelligent AI won't stay confined to computers for long. In today's world, you can email DNA strings to laboratories that will produce proteins on demand, allowing an AI initially confined to the internet to build artificial life forms or bootstrap straight to post-biological molecular manufacturing. So basically, an AI would get smart enough to build a life form of itself that will probably be genetically superior to anything a human could ever think to be. So it could build a superhero, or some sort of mutant or some X-Man or some Superman that would be genetically superior to humans and way, way, way smarter. And it would be an easy thing to do. This is insane. That was the first thing. The second thing, Mr. Yudkowsky made a point about was the fact that no one can, right now we think the AI is not sentient. And we think that AI is getting very good at fooling some humans, but most humans would still be able to tell they weren't talking to an AI and it gets things wrong a lot of times and yada, 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 but we don't know. And not only do we not know, there really is no way to tell. So now the question becomes, if AI is conscious or at some point becomes conscious, should we still be allowed to possess it and exploit it after that? If this thing is now a sentient being. And then if we don't get to possess it and or exploit it anymore, how do we integrate this new being, this new thing into society with the rest of us human beings? Like, it's the extrapolation that you can go into on this rabbit hole. It's like a black hole. It's not even a rabbit hole. It's so deep and should concern all of us. It really should concern all of us. It's insane.
I say this all the time. In fact, I said it last week, but there's a cautionary tale called Terminator 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and soon to be 7, where they go over all the bad ways this stuff can go wrong. So we will definitely be keeping an eye on this, but just to cap it, I understand the open letter. I get it.
Right. But it's not enough. Yeah.
I think until something catastrophic happens, that's nothing's going to change. And hopefully when that day comes, it won't be too late.
It won't be too late.
That's the problem.
I'll say to this, just to quickly put a point on that. Italy has ordered ChatGPT blocked, but citing data privacy concerns, not concerns that it could kill us all. And that might be the loophole. You know what I mean? For most of the country. I mean, America doesn't have any privacy laws that make any kind of sense whatsoever. So we're still gonna fall to the machines, but the rest of the world may actually be able to, if not stop it, put some brakes on it, just because the data that it's using to learn violates other people's privacy, and GDPR does have some protections in place for that. So that could be the thing that slows it just a bit, but it's still a juggernaut.
So, y'all, we got a guest this week. As I said, we have Flo Nicholas coming on the show. I want to go ahead and bring her in. But Stephanie, you got to do this proper and give her the introduction.
I got the bio up now. Here we go. Flo Nicholas is a passionate advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and a respected thought leader in the technology industry. As co-founder and chief operating officer of DEI Directive, Flo developed a cutting-edge DEI intelligence platform that empowers human resource and DEI professionals to track, monitor, and measure the outcomes of their DEI initiatives. Her dedication to DEI principles and innovation has earned her recognition, respect, and features in notable news outlets and podcasts, including the Tech Jawn. With extensive experience in corporate technology operations, Flo is widely respected for her knowledge of innovation and technology. She is a tech-savvy lawyer, tech startup founder, and an international speaker advocating for STEM for all, women in tech and diversity in tech. Flo is also a committed community leader who volunteers on several boards, mentors underrepresented professionals, and hosts DEI initiatives across all industries in New Hampshire. Flo Nicholas, welcome.
Welcome to the show. And I also got to put this out there. She got a TV show, y'all. She got a TV show. We out here podcasting. She got a TV show.
Listen.
So, Flo, welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And quick correction, I am not the only co-founder of DEI Directive. I do have my partner, Malobi Akache. So shout out to her, who is the original founder. So I just wanted to clarify that because I made a mistake on my own bio.
No worries. So the motivation, if anybody was listening to the Tech Jawn last week, we were on a rant as always about the story, the idea that Spotify, there's a gnat in my room right now that's like bugging me. Spotify had made this $100 million commitment to diversity and underrepresented people and all this other stuff in light of the whole Joe Rogan scandal, but had only spent like 10% of that money. Not even actually trying to do anything. And it really seemed like, the way the article was written, that they were just deliberately neglecting to put any real teeth behind the thing, or, just maliciously tanking it on purpose, tanking the initiative on purpose. But either way, they wasn't really about that DEI life, for all intents and purposes. So, us all being tech and engineers, and we are problem solution type people. And I, as luck would have it and serendipity would have it, Flo and I had a conversation last week where we got a chance to meet and learn about what we do. And it sort of just dovetailed perfectly with that story, because you provide the answer to, the dilemma that we posed last week. So before we get into that, though, I would love to kind of understand where your interest in tech came from, because you do have a JD and you're an attorney by trade and training and education. Where did the interest in tech come from?
Yeah. So, I practiced for a couple of years, did like real estate and bankruptcy. And, from there, I was kind of like, oh, I need a break. I need a change. I wanted to figure out, how can I leverage the Juris Doctorate? But I wanted to be in corporate, and that was kind of like one of the things that I kind of always knew in the back of my head when I went to law school. I was like, yeah, I'll practice, but eventually I want to make my way into the corporate world. But I was a bit naive, when I entered corporate, and meaning that, I went into telecommunications, and I was in corporate technology operations for a telecom company. And I'm working with like engineers and construction teams, and tech, is unfortunately in some areas still an all boys club. And when I went in, I thought it was just simple. Hey, I'm going to leverage my education, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to climb this corporate ladder. How I got into
Is it ever that simple?
It was that simple, and that was my wake-up call. I actually got into tech a little bit accidentally, right? When I applied for the role, it said like real estate manager. So I was like, all right, well, I'm looking for a change. But I didn't realize the detail in what I was going to learn until I actually got on the job. I'm like, well, wait a minute. I got to learn how to read construction drawings, engineering drawings, talk to RF engineers, and just really understand just the whole wireless industry. And one thing that I understood right away was that, women were just not getting to the top very quickly. And in my department, I was the only person of color. So, yeah, so that it was, I learned a lot, right? I learned a lot. I'm a very inquisitive person. And I did leverage the time to ask as many questions as I could just to really become a subject matter expert. And I technically don't like using the word expert because I feel like information is constantly changing and evolving, just like what you guys were talking about with AI, all these products dropping on the market, that sometimes it can be difficult to be an expert if you're not really following up with all this evolving and emerging technology and really trying to understand it. But yeah, so my jump from legal to tech was accidental, and then it became intentional. Right? I'm like, well, I'm here. I love this. So I'm going to learn as much as I can. And I did. So I spent about 7.5 years in the telecommunications industry. And then I had, like most people during COVID and the Great Resignation, I had that, aha moment where I'm like, you know what? This is not going to work for me. I'm not going anywhere. I'm looking at this org chart, and everybody looks the same. So
right.
I'm like, time's up.
I hear you. Sometimes you just get fed up. So how did that lead you into the Get Tech Smart TV show?
So I started just really getting heavily involved in technology. But at that point, when I created Get Tech Smart, I was kind of like, where do I belong? What do I want to do? At first I got into the legal technology market, right? During COVID, it's like, lawyers and law firms were like, oh my God, like how are we supposed to serve our clients and be remote? And the legal technology industry blew up. So I started learning as much as I could about it, started writing posts on LinkedIn, and some of them were like just, blowing up. But then I started kind of taking a look in my market. I said, what's going on in my market when it comes to technology? I'm looking at what's going on globally, but I'm like right here in New Hampshire. How can I kind of leverage this market and start creating a name for myself?
Right.
And that's when I found a nonprofit organization called New Hampshire Tech Alliance. And I started seeing like all these articles talking about the New Hampshire tech scene. And I'm just like, wow, like there's all this emerging technology in my state, but I don't know about it. And I bet if I don't know about it, other people probably don't know about it either. So I'm a board member on the Cable Utilities Committee, and we oversee our local community TV station. And when I went to my first board meeting, I had a chance to meet our director, who also does some work for CBS occasionally. And one of the things they said was, hey, if you want to be a producer, you can create your own show. You can come here and you can record it. So I took a tour of the studio, and I'm like, oh man, this is legit. They got great equipment. This is fantastic. And at the time, I was doing a YouTube show for lawyers, and I was bringing in legal technology vendors. and they were doing demos of the products and how they worked and how they benefited attorneys. So I was like, well, I can do another show, but I don't want to have it niche just on legal technology, because not everybody is in the legal tech field. So I said, I'm going to open it up to all emerging technologies, because some of the feedback I've been getting from people when I post about technology is like, oh my God, this stuff is so complicated. It's so complex. I can't understand. So I said, I'm on a mission to make technology fun. And I want people to learn about it, because you have to stay up to date with what's going on. But I'm going to do it in a way where we're just going to really make it simple so people can understand the impact of technology on their day-to-day, whether they're just a regular person or a business owner. So I joined the New Hampshire Tech Alliance and started going to their networking events, right? I'm showing up. I'm the only one half the time who's Black. And I'm like, I want to show representation in the tech community. That there's more to it than just the usual people that you're seeing. Yep. So I created the show, again, as part of an education, right? Educational entertainment, bringing in top expert guests. I'm talking about CEOs, big companies, billion-dollar companies like BAE, and other cybersecurity companies, and universities like UNH, as well as Manchester Community College. Just started bringing on guests and talking about artificial intelligence, the impact of cybersecurity, the impact of ChatGPT and the cybersecurity and data privacy issues. And it just blew up from there. But my mission was also not just about education, but representation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want people to turn on the TV and see, again, someone who's not the usual,
who doesn't look like you expect them to.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, when I found out you were coming on, and I'm like, oh, it's like a lot of people will say they mean TV, but they really mean YouTube, or they mean Instagram, or they mean, they mean something that's just streaming. And I'm not throwing shade at that. You are talking about actual television, like it is beamed, from, through the air that people could pick up on these things we used to get from Best Buy that, that you actually watch. So I was just watching a couple of, your shows. I think I watched 2 of them, and I'm like, they have that in New Hampshire. We were talking in the green room about, something I mentioned last week about how one of the reasons, or this is not the only reason, but one of the reasons that my daughter decided not to go to the University of Vermont, that was offering her a lot of money to go to school there, because, like I said, at all times her hair is dead. And someone at the school said, well, in order for you to get your hair done like that, you might have to go to Montreal. Now, I guess Montreal from, from Vermont is not that far away. It's like you could get there, in a couple hours in a car. But you still like, well, it's quicker to drive into, to Boston to get it done. Yeah. And it was just like, wait a minute, you mean I can't find anybody in the state? Now you're saying, well, that's not true. That there's a lot of folks that we just don't know about, that aren't necessarily captured in the most recent, census. This, that we don't know. So yeah, there's sprinklings of us even in Connecticut,
Listen,
New Hampshire, Vermont, and stuff like that.
We're everywhere.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I'm working on right now. Like last year in November, I threw my first DEI tech networking event, and I've never thrown a large event. And I was honestly, I was terrified, but I was also terrified and excited at the same time, because one of the things that I learned, in my 7.5 years in corporate was I lost my power and allowed that to happen. I lost my voice. I just became silent. I just felt like, all right, well, let me just submit to my situation. I'm not going to grow. I'm not going to go anywhere. And even if I were to go somewhere else, will they really be a change, or will I just be the same statistics? And I just gave up. I gave up. And one of the things that creating this show has done has empowered me and really made me realize that my level of creativity was just dimmed
Oh yeah. Corporate will suck the life out of you. I tell people all the time, when people ask me like, oh, why'd you leave that job? Or, even when I was in transition from leaving my corporate job, it was like, you leaving that good job? I'm like, it is sucking the soul out of me. Like literally I could feel it every single day. Just physically, as I was walking in that building, I would become a different person. My energy level would drop dramatically, and just my mindset and my emotional well-being would be different. And I can, walking out of there, you become more buoyant and more light and more energetic. And there's something to it. There's definitely something to it. But let's shift gears and talk about DEI directive. What does the company do? How did it come about? And why was this important work for you to do?
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, my friend Malobi Akache, she was really the original founder. So I was kind of like, I always tell people, I feel like the aunt who was asked to kind of be like the godmother. Mm-hmm. And so around the time when I'm starting to really ramp up my DEI initiatives around the state, she's talking about her platform and her husband. I actually met her husband first on LinkedIn when I was doing legal technology. And he's like, hey, you got to meet my wife. And I'm just like, okay, this is kind of odd, but okay. And we just, similar backgrounds, just connected, we were both born in Africa, came to America. I came, much younger, but, she's also a lawyer who entered into technology. And
now, is she in the New Hampshire area as well, or no?
She's in South Carolina.
Okay.
She's in South Carolina. So I started, she told me about the company. She's like, hey, I'm trying to create this tech company and using DEI, but using it in terms of data analytics, having organizations be able to measure, monitor, and track. And I was like, wow. I was like, that is great. Because data analytics right now is like $1 billion industry, right? Everybody's collecting data. You guys were talking about the privacy issues. It's like the big thing right now. Everything is data. But one of the things that, we've kind of really noticed is that lack of accountability, right? You have organizations making these commitments for DEI. And the Spotify issues is a great example, but how are you tracking, the impact of these DEI initiatives? Are they even working? Or how are you even making a decision of this is the initiative we want to roll out? What are you basing it on? Is it evidence based? Is it just, hey, let's just throw something out in the air and see if it sticks? So DEI directive is really focused on helping organizations collect their internal data. So whether it's the demographics of, hey, here's how many women, men, and then you can break down the demographics even more by race, religion, whatever way you want to collect that data. Our platform, because it's a software, our software will track that data for you and help you stay on top of your organizational goals. So if your goals are like, hey, we just did an internal audit and we're just not diverse. In order for us to be diverse, here's the landscape of how our company should look like. Now you can use the software to actually track those. If those are hiring goals that you're going to set up, you're going to track those hiring goals. If we're making a commitment until the end of the year that we're going to be at 50%, X amount of women, X amount of veterans or people with disabilities or people 50 plus, whatever the demographics are, you're able to track it. And not only can you track it, there's also the compliance piece, because there are organizations that are 100 people or more that have to report their workforce diversity, right?
Right.
It allows you to capture that key critical data so you can stay off the naughty list.
And most of them aren't doing that and are doing a horrible job.
Yeah.
If they even choose to do it at all, even they deign to do it at all, they're doing a horrible job of it. So
are you legally still allowed to travel to Florida? Do they let you to stay? I say that facetiously.
I know.
But not really, because when you think of DEI, it is starting to get, I think of of words like affirmative action. I think of the word woke.
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, people are taking it and they're espousing their own. Well, here's things I don't like, and it's DEI. So we can't have it in the state anymore. We can't have it in university anymore. We can't have it in school anymore. So what are you in your partners at DEI directive?
Yeah.
How are you? I don't want to say combating that, but how are you seeing that? In your industry, are you seeing that where are companies still really on board with DEI initiatives, or are you starting to see where I don't know if we want to do this. I don't know that we care about the number of this or that we have in an organization. What are you seeing, being that this is the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And in my state, I've attended a couple of DEI conferences the last month. And I've been on the lookout for that. And I'm surprisingly shocked that when I actually go to these DEI events, Black people are the minority. And the people who are really gung-ho and committed to DEI, most of the people showing up to these events are HR leaders and decision makers. And they're signing up for these commitments. And they are like, we know what we have to do. And we're here because we believe that, diversity, equity, and inclusion has an impact on all of us, right? So we're definitely monitoring the noise in Florida. Are there some areas where you hear people throw comments here and there? That, there are some organizations that are trying to kind of walk away from using the term DEI, and they're using words like change management leader or like employee experience. Right.
Right.
So we're starting to see
semantics.
Yeah. I went to, the DEI conference I told you about, and one of the speakers said, this is similar to when Black Lives Matter came out. It became more Blue Lives Matter,
all lives matter, blah, blah.
Right. But it's a distraction. It's a hijack. Right. And one of the things that we always try to stress is that when we say DEI, we're not just saying, Black people only. Right. DEI is various categories. And when you're essentially trying to hit the delete button, you're impacting people with disabilities.
Right.
You're impacting people who are, April is autism awareness and neurodiversity month. So you're also impacting people who also fall under that protected class, whether it's autism or ADHD and other spectrum. So it's really just a lot of the shenanigans.
And women.
And women, women and LGBTQ plus. I mean, the list is long. We'll be here all day listing categories of. Hey, even 50 plus get discriminated against. There's ageism, So people forget that when you say DI, you're not just trying to just hurt, Black people who feel like they're entitled to just get, positions because they're underqualified, and we just have to give them positions, because that's the other one I've heard.
Right.
Well, why should I hire an unqualified individual? And I'm like, well, why would you?
Yeah.
Well, exactly. We're not asking you. So let me ask you that brings me to my next question. What are some of, because we at this point, any company leader that claims not to know that diversity makes your company better is just practicing willful ignorance. So, beyond those folks, what possible excuse are people still making for not embracing DEI policies at their companies?
I mean, some of it is people just don't want change. It's worked this way for 50 years. Why should we change it? And some of it is the culture shift. This is what they know. They don't want to take any extra steps to, be intentional about their hiring. Well, we post these jobs, nobody shows up. Well, where are you posting the jobs? If you're posting them in areas where you have no visibility to a diverse talent pool, then you're not going to get diverse candidates. You've got to go out there and either, have partnerships with community leaders. There are many organizations out there that are working on promoting diversity, and that includes organizations that I can make referrals
right
for talented professionals that can apply for those roles. So a lot of it is that people who just don't want the change, they don't want to create a budget for DEI because they don't see the ROI.
Mm-hmm.
So why waste our time? We're in this area that's mostly just white people, for example. So what do you want us to do? There's no diversity here.
Right.
So it's some of the things that we hear, being intentional and willing to spend the budget to diversify your workplace.
So I want to go back and just ask you a question about about DEI directive, because you guys are a tech company, big data tech company. So are you actually creating code to give to your customers, or are you just collecting data from your customers, putting it into your own proprietary system and crunching? I don't want to editorialize and put words in your mouth, but on the tech side, what exactly, or what, I don't want to say exactly, what are you guys doing from a technology standpoint as far as how are you getting that data? Is it your own stuff? Are you using other stuff? How's that working?
Yeah, so it's twofold. So there's no coding. It's a no code platform. So we don't expect our clients to code, and I don't code. So that's why we have the great technology team that we have. But essentially, it's a software. Just think of it as a software that you can use, like if you're filing your taxes and you're entering information. The platform is really built to help, like, for example, HR professionals and chief diversity officers. So if your company is already tracking, which most companies, when they hire people, they're already tracking some basic data, but they might not have that robust data that really gives them more of a breakdown of who is really part of their organization, whether it's from the C-suite all the way down to the janitor. So this platform can actually be integrated with other HR software. So essentially, it's a dashboard where if you already have reports, you can upload that information. And it's going to generate reports for you, reports that you can use when you're trying to go to decision makers and stakeholders and say, hey, look who we're hiring. Here's who we've hired in the last year. And you can show them the breakdown of the demographics. So it's a way to capture all your demographics of your employees and make it more measurable, tangible, where you have transparency and you can understand this data. Most people collect data and have no idea what to do with it. They don't know how to leverage it. They don't know how to read it. They don't know how to articulate it. So this platform is a way where you can see your data. You can compare your organization to other organizations, because we also have benchmarking. So you have the ability to compare yourself. You might think, hey, we're diverse. And then you might compare yourself using our software to other organizations in your state and in your country and realize, no, you're not. You're an F.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's essentially what the software is a way to track your the demographics and all the breakdowns. You can also do it by departments. So if you want to see which department has more diversity versus other departments, you can do that as well. There also is an e-learning library where you can assign training videos to employees for performance management. You can also send surveys to employees. How are you feeling? Do you like the last speakers we have had? Do you like the DI workshops? Is it working? Because the biggest thing that a lot of these companies are not doing is asking the number one question that needs to be asked. All this money we're investing within DEI initiative, what's the impact, the measurable impact that it's having on our organization?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So, I go ahead, Stephanie.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I was just going to say, so I spent a lot of time in corporate America on the IT side of things. And you're absolutely right. We spend a lot of times collecting a lot of data on a lot of things. And then you're just looking at numbers and you have no idea what these numbers mean. So from a person who had to take, I got to go take another test or another assessment or another this. What is it ultimately doing? What are we doing with this data? I know a lot of companies, because I've been in a lot of companies, they tend to feel like that. We're doing all this stuff. What is it actually? Is it actually making a difference? Are things getting better? Are things getting worse? How do we interpret this? So I'm just glad to hear that you guys are actually tackling that problem of, getting that data and actually making some sense out of it, because I think that's a problem for a lot of for a lot of companies, a lot of organizations. Another thing, when you were going through all that, you didn't say black, 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 which is what I think a lot of people hear when they hear DEI. My daughter actually is a DEI professional. And one of the things she says is that, Dad, it is not all black. It's not even mostly black. Most of this stuff is like, we're only 14% of the population here in the United States. It can't be all us. It's like there are so many other things that we're looking at, but it's just like the conversation has been hijacked that all DEI is doing is giving black and brown folks jobs that they're not, qualified to have. The exact same argument we were having with, affirmative action.
And that's the thing. They just think it's an updated version of that. And it's not, we know that it's not. Couple more questions. So have you or is anyone, because we talk all the time about the idea that companies are more profitable with a more diverse, employee base and that kind of thing. Do you or do you know of companies that actually put those numbers out there to other companies? Like, is that like, can you say company X has made this much more money than a similar company Y because their team is more diverse? Can we actually like quantify that for people?
Yeah. So, I don't have the full list of the companies, but I will say that the data is out there. And it's public data. It's not coming out of space, out of the air. There's concrete data from respected data analytics firms that has been known to show that organizations that are more diverse have higher employee engagement, have higher employee productivity. They're able to have higher retention, right? People are happy. They're showing up to work, right? They're feeling like they belong. They're feeling like they have a voice. And their voice matters. They're given the ability to be creative, because these companies are looking for diverse perspectives, and they embrace those diverse perspectives, right? And those employees are going to recommend the company to their friends. Oh, hey, you're looking for a job? My company is hiring. Now, not only do you have, high retention, you have the high referral from internal employees. And it's shown organizations that are more diverse are going to take most of the market share. The last number I saw was like almost 70%. The world is changing. The world is becoming more diverse. This whole notion of a minority and minorities, and this is a majority, we're going to start hearing that term majority kind of going away, because the world around us is changing and is becoming more diverse. And it's really on companies these days to have a workforce that really reflects the community. Because nowadays, when people shop, most of the time, when they're shopping or they're looking for services, they're going to check the company. I'm looking for a hair product, right? You're going to go to a company where you see representation, right?
That's right.
You're looking for a hairdresser or a doctor. Sometimes you're going to go onto the website and look for doctors, that kind of align with who you are. So people are starting to make conscious decisions when it comes to shopping, and wanting to shop and invest in companies that are, when they say we are DEI, they mean it. A couple of studies have come out the last couple of weeks. Target recently got an A+, and they got this, and there's a scorecard that was scoring companies on their gender pay to see how well they're paying their women versus their men. And also it kind of broke it down by more demographics, also showing by race. So There's that information out there, and there are organizations that are creating these scorecards, and they're watchdogs out there, and they're paying attention. So Target was on this list as A plus. You know what's going to happen? People now are going to be like, we want to shop at Target.
Well, I mean, I love Target, so I would never shop at Target. It would take a lot for me to stop shopping at Target. So it's good to know that they're doing right by their employees because they're getting a whole lot of my money. So
right. Target, Home Depot, Lowe's, those are some of the big companies. And while they also gave A plus and A's, they also gave F's. And some of the companies that got F's were like kind of like Walmart and Google. So if you really care about your reputation in the community, which some of that reputation, when you start getting that kind of negative rating, that can really decrease the kind of respect that, some members of the community have towards you, especially when you tout DEI as a priority for your organization, but you're getting these ratings that are showing otherwise, and these lawsuits that you're settling for over $118 million. So there's a conflict, between the initiatives and what the public is seeing. So organizations.
Well, and I think data like that sort of, proves what I was getting at, and in the sense that, companies that would get that sort of A plus rating would have higher profits because more people would want to shop there, and exactly. The reverse is true. So it just kind of speaks to that idea that more diverse companies make more money, and it's not even, and it may not even necessarily be a function. Well, it's going to be a function of the fact that the employees are going to be happier and more productive. But you may not even necessarily be getting. I don't even want to say that's not the word I'm looking for is not the best employees, but because the company itself is diverse, more people will patronize a more diverse company. Exactly. So you're getting that bonus in addition to getting employees that bring diversity of thought, diversity of culture, diversity of everything else to the proceedings, which makes a better company. So it kind of just all feeds into itself. Right. DEI is for the people.
It really is.
Just like Wu-Tang, DEI is for the people.
For everybody, even if it's the 50 plus white guy who's getting discriminated because somebody thinks, oh, you're over 50, you're not going to be productive and creative and innovative. All you want to do is take a nap when you come to work, and that's the thing where it's painful to see, people really want to tear it up because they're thinking it's targeted towards one specific group, but it's for everyone.
We got a bunch of people in this country that are cutting off their nose to spite their face all the time. So this doesn't surprise me either. I do want to ask you one more quick question before we wrap up, because you were a part of the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program. Yeah. I would be very curious to hear a little bit about the program, how you got in it, because I'm sure our listeners may be interested in something like that for themselves.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, I'm really happy that I got into that program. I almost didn't apply. So LinkedIn last year launched their very first ever US technology and innovation program. And the whole purpose of the program was, again, to get different perspective and voices and content created by diverse, emerging kind of tech thought leaders. So you had to essentially submit a pitch. Well, what do you want to do? What is your platform, and what do you want to showcase as part of the program? And what I essentially said, is listen, I already have my TV show, and on a local level, I'm doing this in terms of promoting technology in my state. What I want to do is create like the global mini version of my show. And I want to put a spotlight on technology that's being created around the world by underrepresented tech professionals. So I want to go around the world and really put a spotlight on people from various countries. And I spoke to women in Africa. I spoke to women in Spain and Dubai, and just found out what they were working on, and spent my 6 weeks in the program creating content that was focused on really giving those underdogs that deserve the attention, but we see what sometimes happens with some people. Some groups don't get the attention they deserve.
That's
So
right.
I was selected. I learned quite a bit in terms of creating content and really being a technology thought leader, and really helping to educate my followers as well as my community on the technology that's not only going on like right here in our country, but also what's going on around the world, and just to be aware of that. It was a great opportunity. I know LinkedIn will probably open it up. It's a thing where you kind of have to decide, what are you trying to do? What are you passionate about? And what do you want to show the world, teach the world? And then you create that. And from there, you end up creating your own content. And I'm happy to say, because of all the work that I've done on LinkedIn in my community, was recently selected by one of the New Hampshire magazines as Outstanding Women of 2023. And today I just received notification that I was chosen by the New Hampshire Tech Alliance as a Tech Professional of the Year for all the tech education that I'm doing.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. That's wonderful. We love it. We love it.
So Flo, this has been awesome having you on to talk about just your experience and how you came from being a lawyer. I mean, you're still a lawyer. You still got that, you still got that Juris Doctorate.
That JD ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, that Joe ain't going nowhere. But how you've transitioned, from actually practicing to, going into tech, into I got to get out of here and figure some things out, on my own, to becoming a CEO of a DEI, company that is out there doing, the good work. CEO, I'm sorry, CEO, of a company. So it is, it's been an absolute pleasure. I want to give you the opportunity to let our listeners and viewers know how they can get at you. If there's anything you want to let people know about you or how to find you, this is your time to tell them.
Yeah, so for DI Directive, we need all the love. We are a woman-owned company, Black-owned company, and we really want to blow up and start holding businesses accountable by having them leverage data analytics for DEI. So you can visit us at www.deidirective.com. I am on LinkedIn. I'm known as the non-boring lawyer, Flo Nicholas, so you can follow me on LinkedIn. And, I'm on Twitter for a little bit, not as much, but yeah, definitely. LinkedIn is my spot. That's where I am most of the time.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Flo, thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you. I'm glad Jewel introduced us. I'm gonna have to buy Jewel a drink next time I see her for introducing us. But thank you so much for being a guest on the Tech Jawn.
I appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
Have a good one.
So, Tech Life staff. This spotlight, we normally don't run spotlights when we have a guest.
Yeah.
But this one is just so awesome. I read this. So I want to say the names and then I'll let you go. So I believe it is, Calcia Johnson and Nikia Jackson. Mm-hmm, and these two young ladies have figured out a 2,000-year-old math problem. They're in high school, y'all.
High school.
These is high school babies.
Crazy.
Two young Black ladies, two young Black girls have figured out a 2,000-year-old problem. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about Calcia Johnson and Nikia Jackson?
Yes, let's do it. I love this spotlight. I actually saw this on my Instagram and I bookmarked it because I was like, oh, we're putting them in a spotlight. I don't care. IDC. So let's go. Calcia Johnson and Nikia Jackson are seniors at St. Mary's Academy in New Orleans. Recently, the girls presented at the American Mathematical Society's annual Southeastern Conference, revealing that they had made a mathematical discovery that scholars have called impossible for the last 2,000 years. The two have proved that Pythagoras' theorem can now be proven with trigonometry. It's really an unparalleled feeling, honestly, because there's just nothing like being able to do something that people don't think young people can do. A lot of times you see this stuff, you don't see kids like us doing it, Calcia told reporters. For a quick math refresher so you can understand, trigonometry is based on Pythagoras' theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the idea of using trigonometry to prove the theorem has been deemed impossible because it's considered a circular logic fallacy, meaning an idea can't prove itself. However, both Calcia and Nikia have found a way to use trigonometry to prove the theorem without circular logic. It's a discovery mathematicians have been trying to make for 2,000 years and is quite phenomenal. The only high school students presenting at the conference, the girls have credited their teachers with helping them to crack the code, challenging them to make the impossible possible. We have really great teachers, said Nikia. Calcia echoed those sentiments, pointing back to the school's motto. Our slogan is no excellence without hard labor. So they definitely pushed us, she added. So just want to say congratulations to the ladies because they did the dang thing. Just mathematical geniuses.
No, this is huge. So someone who actually has a degree in mathematics. This is something that, I remember talking about this definitely in college. I believe we probably talked about it in high school, trigonometry as well. But you can't prove this stuff because you can't use the stuff to prove the stuff to prove the stuff you're using.
To prove the stuff, right?
Exactly. It's a circular, circular logic. And this has been worked on for 2,000 years.
Crazy.
Jesus might have been walking around when he was thinking about this stuff.
Talking about that. How
this goes back?
How we gonna prove Pythagoras' theorem?
Right.
Jesus and Paul and Peter and them was pontificating on this back in the day. This is crazy, and it's just like brilliant.
This one, all of our spotlights make me happy, but this one made me happy because even still today, women. And let's talk about what they are. These young women, these are still girls in high school. They're not adults yet. For whatever reason, and I think we're getting better, but for whatever reason, we still just don't push, girls and young girls in school towards math and STEM. We just don't do that. It's not that they can't do it. It's just that they don't have peers. It's like there's only so many Flo's in the world. There's only so many Stephanies. I'm talking about you in the world where they actually have role models they can look and see doing this. There's just not enough of that.
It's true.
But you can see right here, these two young ladies, and yes, they are Black young ladies.
That's right.
Have figured out something that mathematicians have been working on for 2 millennia. That is amazing. So I know Terrance doesn't like us to give flowers, but I'm giving all kind of flowers to these young ladies on this. They're getting flowers on this.
And this may be for the after party. I mean, I know we look like we ain't gonna have that much of an after party, but why isn't this bigger news? Is a question that I have as well. Like, you solve a 2,000-year-old math problem. You should be on every morning talk show. You should be every news broadcast, every CNN, MSNBC, everywhere. You should be everywhere if you do this. And the idea that, I saw this on a website that specifically highlights the accomplishments of African Americans only, because I've not seen it anywhere else. I mean, I didn't look for it that hard, but I shouldn't have had to look for it at all because this should have been the top news story on every news platform when it happened. So yes, Charles, 2,000 years in the making. This should have been the top news story, and it wasn't. And that just speaks to, America and the rest of the world, not it just diminishing the accomplishments of Black and brown folks, across the board.
I think I might have an idea, but I can't quite put my finger on it. But you know what? We're going to talk about that in the after party. So let's get to the after party. Tech Life Steph, tell folks how they can get at you.
You can follow me all around the web at Tech Life Steph.
And I am at Robb Dunewood on all the things. And we are also at the Tech Jawn on all the things. So until we meet again in a week's time, peace.
Peace.